Okay, great.
We are live.
All right, welcome to the Recreation Committee meeting. It's Monday, March 1st at bright and early at 8 a.m. And we are holding this as a virtual meeting due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Although I will note we are planning, I believe, hopefully next month to start meeting in person again, as long as everything falls into place. The public is able to join the virtual meeting online and when they like to join us for public comment. I'll call the meeting to order, acknowledge the press and public have been duly notified in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Our next order of business would be approval of the previous meeting's minutes. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve previous month's minutes.
All right. Any discussion or changes? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to item 3, citizens' comments. We did receive one citizen's comment that has been entered into the record around, and I'll just note that that was about a grandparent having some questions about who is eligible for summer camp. And we will be touching on that later under our new business when we discuss summer camp registration. Moving on to our departmental report with Norma Jean Page.
Thank you, Councilwoman Smith. You all should have a report in front of you. I'm just going to hit some highlights. A lot of it's the same, repetitive classes, but we have initiated a couple of new things. I'll point those out. In athletics, pickleball is picking up here. Pardon pun there. And we have, our lessons have been very successful. So we're going to try to implement like a little pickleball league, see if we can get something going, and it's sort of like a ladder in tennis, and see how that goes. We also decided to implement a table tennis league for beginners. Right now we have a table tennis league and it's very successful. However, I can't compete against those guys, and I will challenge any of you to try to, because they really are good. So we thought we would throw it out there and see if there are people that would like to play competitively, with a little bracket, but are at the beginning level. So we'll see how that goes.
That's nice. I actually started playing ping pong at Blackbaud when we were still going into the office, and they have ping pong tables down below, or table tennis.
Well, maybe you should sign up.
I might think about that. So thanks.
So youth sports, our baseball program is beginning. We're getting geared up for that. We've had our evaluations, and you can see the numbers, residents versus non-residents versus Sullivan's Island. For spring break, we decided to offer a soccer camp, just something to give the children to do during the spring break, which oftentimes we do. So you'll see the information there regarding the spring break soccer camp. We also reached out to Isle Palms Exchange about some opportunities or activities around the dock, kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding. Kitty and I discussed things at great lengths, lessons versus access versus events. So she was going to take it back to the board and see what they would like to do with that.
Awesome.
So now you'll see programs and classes. Like I said, most of these are, none of these are new. They're ongoing. They're all going very well. People are so appreciative that we're having classes, even though some of the classes are reduced, but we did open up the Zoom opportunities for them. They're very appreciative of that. When a class is too big for the Magnolia Palmetto room, we'll send them into the gym. So we're kind of alternating classes back and forth to accommodate the numbers of folks that want to participate. New classes, pickleball lessons is one. Like I said, it's very successful right now. Our over 50 yoga is being well attended, and over 50 Pilates. And then our Fit Body in 50, which we had that prior to COVID-19. And we brought that back, and it's very popular again. Some of our special interest class, I just put that one category. We haven't been real successful coordinating classes with coastal environmental. We reached out to the individual that Councilman Pounds gave us his information, and we've yet to be able to set anything up with him. We're going to continue working with him to see what we can do. I also received information. There's another resident on the Isle of Palms that I think was a professor, maybe at College of Charleston, that we might reach out because he has some expertise in this, and see if he would be willing to help us out and start offering some sort of classes. So we haven't dropped the ball. We continue to do that. But in the meantime, we have been reaching out to SCDNR, and you can see that they're offering these classes. They said we could partner with them. We're advertising on our Facebook. They're all virtual right now, except for the boater safety workshop, which we've had these for years. I know Councilman Buchanan, his boys might have even taken a part in these, but we're starting those back in April. So you can see we're trying to go down those lines, and we're doing what is available right now. Of course, COVID has prohibited a lot of in-class programming, but at least these folks have allowed us to partner with them. We're putting this information, like I said, on the Facebook. So folks that follow us on Facebook can get this information and sign up through our Facebook page. Other things of interest, I'm just going to skip over a little bit. As you all were made aware, I think we had a hot water heater malfunction, which caused quite a bit of havoc, and we're still dealing with that a little bit. I thought we'd be finished by now, but all the floor in the hallways had to be replaced or are being replaced. We were hoping to have that done by Saturday, but it didn't quite work out that way. The floor in the Magnolia Palmetto room had to be removed. That's been replaced as well. So we're having to jockey classes back and forth right now until we get that fixed. And what happened, the pressure tank for our hot water heater was against the wall, and between the tank and the wall, it had corroded. But it was not obvious when you went in and inspected it, you wouldn't see it, but it spewed quite a bit of water. We sucked out with our floor scrubber at least 120 gallons.
Wow.
So that's not the water that we squeegeed out. And
wow.
My staff came in that morning. I called them all. We came in and got the floor out so we could start drying out. And so kudos to them. It was a Saturday morning, and they all came in. Our city administrator came in and actually took a video of them. It was actually pretty humorous, but everybody worked together, and we got that done.
Well, and let's pause there for a second and thank you and everyone who responded to that quickly. And that's so unfortunate, but appreciate you jumping on it. And I mean, as far as insurance will cover most or all of that, or how does that work? Insurance will pay for the flooring, which is close to $60,000 for because it is athletic type flooring, which I guess maybe any flooring would. That's quite a bit of square footage. Right. The city will have to pay for the hot water heater, but it is 16 years old. It's original to this facility, so I guess we got our money's worth. So are the flooring. So I would tell you, it did break my heart to have to get the flooring out. I was going to try to save it, and the water mitigation fellow looked at me. He said, "Miss Norma Jean, there's no way you can save your floor." So I tried, but it was not salvageable. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Sure. Okay. Absolutely. I'm just glad we caught it as soon as we did. Right. Could have been a lot worse. Any other questions along those lines from the rest of the committee? Okay. All right. Okay. Carry on. It just, I know there was a comment from a citizen regarding the grounds. I know they aren't as pretty as they once were, but it is the winter time and things aren't as green as they were. But what we actually did is we went in and cleaned out some of the shrubbery that had been there for 16 years. And they had died and they had seen their growth. We pulled those out.
we've been working with Robert Acero from the Public Works to get some plantings at wholesale to redo the front and the side of the gym. So we're making progress. It's just, you know, we trim the trees every year, so it's not as green as it typically is, but without the sun and the warm weather, there's not a lot I can do about the green. But we are moving in that direction. I think the grounds look pretty good for the time of year. But I did have a conversation with that resident this week. I was having a conversation about something else, and this came up. So I think they were satisfied with the direction that we're going with the plantings.
I had not picked up on any criticism of the grounds or anything, so, but appreciate if you had heard that, addressing that with them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Attached to your agenda, I have put the I think I told you I would give you the basketball COVID-19 protocols. This is for the 3-on-3 basketball that we're getting ready to start with the adults. It's going to be run very similar to the youth sports. Only the 2 teams that are playing at that time will be allowed into the facility. The temperatures will be taken. Any spectators with them, their temperature will be taken. When they aren't playing, they have to wear a mask. Whoever enters the recreation center will have to wear a mask. The bleachers are marked off at the social distancing. So pretty much the same guidelines as we use for our youth basketball. And once their game's over, they exit out the side gym door. We sanitize everything before the next team is allowed in, and we change basketballs.
So I have a question.
Sure.
Along those lines in terms of the gym. And I mean, in this current moment, COVID levels are going down nationally.
Right.
South Carolina is still a hot spot comparatively to the rest of the country, and is behind in getting vaccinations done, sadly. But what is the plan in terms of opening the gym back up and kind of as we start to shed some of these COVID restrictions, when things start to more and more people getting vaccinated?
Right. Well, I think we'll gradually move in back to where we were. I think we'll have to limit the number of people. It depends on where we go. We may have to get personal information from everyone and do temperatures for a while. But right now we still can only allow 5 people per 1,000 square feet and no actual games or free play inside. So once that's lifted and we feel it's safe to do that, then we'll gradually move back into where we were. Will it be all the hours we were open at one time? I don't know. Mm-hmm. Just like this Wednesday, we will be having our teenagers in the gymnasium because we had a pretty good number that want to be here, and to make sure that we are social distancing, we're going to move them into the gym. So we will have the room. So we're still limited with the numbers per square feet that we can do. I think some of our colleagues are allowing people to shoot individually on goals, similar to what we did earlier. 3 people per goal, no games but shooting. I think some are allowing that, but I'm not sure that that's what our residents want. And we're using the gym for some of our classes as well. For some of the exercise classes, if more people show up than we anticipated, then we just move them into the gym because we do have the square footage to accommodate that. So actually the gym is being really handy right now for our overflow. So, but we'll gradually move back into some type of open gym. What the restrictions will be, I'm not sure. Okay. But we will get there.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense, to use the gym strategically to allow more space, social distancing space when you're having other classes. And I know I haven't really had a chance to study some of the changes that the governor just put out. And I don't know, Ron, if you have how that might impact things.
So the changes that are happening today actually are primarily in relation to the last call executive order and the capacity for restaurants.
Okay,
So I
so
don't know that
it's
it would,
not much.
yeah, really affect rec too much.
I thought it touched on gatherings, but like I
It
said.
does, yeah, sorry. Okay, so you are correct there. That's for large gatherings, but I don't know that we have anything other than this outdoor movie that's planned for Saturday that would be affected by that as well.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Right,
great.
and I did submit a request permission for that event, even though everyone should stay in their cars. Hopefully there will be more than 250 people there, so I did submit for permit to do that. I know summer camp is on the agenda, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I also wanted to, for our baseball, youth sports, adult sports, I had a meeting last week with Dr. Eckert and Dr. Key from MUSC, along with the regional recreation directors in this area. And we're trying to come up with a plan for all of us to make sure that we're all running our sports and our summer camps and those activities the same. We're using the same criteria because they're really concerned about the youth and the spread of COVID, and particularly with our youth sports. And I feel happy we got through basketball with no issues. I think baseball will be a little bit easier because it is outside, even though we are expanding the bleachers, not using the dugouts, so that the children, once they're not on the field, they can spread out on the bleachers. We have marked the bleachers in the baseball to social distance the parents. We're encouraging parents to bring their folding chairs or lawn chairs so that they can also social distance. So I would tell you, COVID has given us a lot of work, but I think we've stepped up to the plate, pardon the pun. And our baseball program will be run as smoothly as our basketball program. I think our protocols that are included in your report will indicate our efforts to provide for safe playing this year.
Yeah, after basketball, I feel like baseball should be we can all breathe a little easier, especially since it's outside.
I think so too.
But thank you for those precautions and for sharing that with us.
Absolutely.
Any questions from the rest of the committee around what we've covered so far?
Nope, sounds good.
Okay.
Also attached to your report, and we can wrap the report up. I did attach our fitness class calendar for March, and then we also attached our March building calendar, which these are posted just to show you the classes and the scheduling that we have in the building and around the facilities right now.
And Day in the Park talk more about that let's talk about the movie first, the events. Let's just run through the events.
Okay. So a drive-in movie is actually this Saturday, and gosh, I'm trying to find it. Did I leave it out? The drive-in movie is this Saturday in the I don't see it. I apologize. I don't see it in this.
Oh, I have it in my head.
I know. I'm sorry. Is this Saturday at the municipal lot? The police department is working with us to make that happen. It is the Hedgehog, Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
Yeah.
The spaces will be numbered. We will have folks directing everybody where to park and how to park. We will hand out information as they come in the parking lot as to what the rules are. You stay in your car, no socializing. They can sit outside the car in a folding chair, but there will be a vacant parking space between every car.
Okay.
So there will certainly be social distancing.
Can you come in a golf cart?
No.
No? Okay.
Well, because it's against the law to drive a golf cart after dark.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. It's a nice.
I mean, if you
Yeah.
want to break the law, you can, but I wouldn't recommend that.
Okay, sorry,
Um,
I forgot that's a nighttime thing, yeah.
Yes. Also, the next thing after that would be our Easter egg drop, which we're working with the police and fire department. I can't reveal our secret over, depends on who's listening, but the fire department and the police department are going to help us distribute bags of candy and Easter eggs and little goodies to all the folks that sign up. And the Easter bunny will be in the vehicle. They will not be, they will not get out of the vehicle because it's just kind of difficult.
Right,
They have those big feet and bulky bodies. So, but we'll visit all the houses of the folks that register. We've been putting it on social media. People have registered. Friday, I remember we had lots of calls. So this is going to be exciting. And I think, you know, treat, we'll put a sign in front of everybody's yard, just a little sign that says, "You've been egged," or "You've been Easter egged," or something. Just something so the children can get excited. Hopefully we can get there within the time frame we've set aside. So hopefully the children will be home and they can at least wave at the Easter bunny and get their bag of goodies. So we're excited about that. The yard,
have you had a lot of people sign up for that already?
the phone was very busy Friday. So
Cool.
I'm not sure how many people have signed up,
Okay,
but it seems to be pretty popular, and we'll keep pushing it on social media.
super.
Also, April 17th is our yard sale. What we've done, once again, is reduce that numbers so that, you know, the vendors can social distance. But I think this is another good outside event where folks don't have to get in contact with each other. So we look forward to that. Police department's working with us on that as well. If we have so many people to sign up and we can accommodate them, we may have one in the early fall or something, just have 2 a year to accommodate those people that we couldn't in April. So we were looking down the road, maybe we could do one in September if there are a lot of people that want to participate. On May the 1st, you know, not knowing what COVID's going to do, we decided we'd have the music in the park. We'll have the squares for families. So people will sit in those squares so they can social distance. We'll have a couple of food trucks. We're going to invite the community to make the circle and grab something to eat if they want to during the day. And about an hour after music in the park, because typically music in the park draws our senior population more than the younger population, we decided to do a movie in the park over on the multi-purpose field. No vehicles, you have to bring your lawn chairs, but we will have the family squares drawn out there as well. So we'll see how it goes. Something else for families to do during this time that we've been limited.
And honestly, I mean, I hope by May we'll be able to be more relaxed, and that most people will be vaccinated, crossing fingers.
I agree.
Honestly, I mean, children may not have that opportunity, but vulnerable adults, I think, will have had plenty of opportunity to
Right,
have gotten vaccinated by them, hopefully. So,
right. Also on that report, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, and I apologize, would be our summer camp. And we'll touch on that when we get to that agenda item.
okay. All right. Any questions from our committee? Okay. I did have one question, and this is a little bit forward thinking, but we touched on with our capital budget review previously, the online registration.
Right.
What is the target for getting that up and running? It's obviously part of our next fiscal year's budget, so probably not until, I'm thinking, I mean, at least early or middle summer would be the earliest. It seems like.
When or if I get your approval, we'll start working on that right away.
Okay.
Because it would be really helpful during summer camp. Summer camp is the toughest one to, even though we're allowing them to register and pay online, to reconcile that with our rec track is very time consuming.
Mhm.
So, but we would start working on it. I don't think it'll take long at all.
Okay, great.
So once we get the budget approved, I think we can be ready to jump right on that.
Okay, great. I do think that the timing is going to be, maybe a little past due in terms of what people's expectations are, but I think it will be helpful to get more engagement as we move out of COVID
Right.
with all sorts of classes by making it just easier for people to sign up.
I agree.
All right. Okay, moving on to old business. Item A was discussion of outlook for classes and activities in the spring. And we kind of covered that for the most part. In terms of, this kind of gets into item D, the coastal environmental science education class. I'm really glad in terms of the classes that you mentioned that South Carolina DNR is going to be offering. The boating education class, I think, is fantastic for this moment. Even though we've done it in the past,
Right.
we certainly have a lot of people out there right now getting out and boating and being outdoors. And a lot of boat traffic. And so I think that that's important. And hopefully would like to see that really publicized a lot, as I think you mentioned. The shorebirds class, I would have loved to have known about that myself. I follow the rec department Facebook page, but did not catch that. When things like that come up and you haven't, especially if you haven't had a chance to publicize it, please mention it to me so that I can help you get the word out, and I would love to be aware of it myself. And now as far as the other two classes, I'm curious because the pond management and the other one, is that something that DNR, like you're tapping into classes that DNR is already offering to a wider scope of audience? Because those aren't two classes that I would necessarily think that are high interest classes for us, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, you may be right, but there are quite a few ponds in the Wild Dunes area.
Okay.
So there may be people living there, residents there, that might be interested in this, even though maybe Wild Dunes manages those ponds. I'm not sure, but these are programs that they're already doing.
Okay.
And we just thought to get the word out, and maybe folks have a second home somewhere else that they do have a pond, or it's just good information. Whether they're interested or not is totally up to them, whether they participate in it. But there are programs they're already doing. They invited us to piggyback with them on everything they're doing. So we're just trying to get the word out, and they're going to work with us as best they can to offer us programs that our folks are interested in as well.
That's cool. And so that's offered through Zoom.
Yes.
So that's easy to access that way. Okay, gotcha.
And you can sign up through our Facebook. We're putting it on Facebook. I think there've been quite a few posts. So you can sign up through there.
Okay, perfect. All right, and then so we can move on to adjustments. Well, we've already kind of covered adjustments and impact related to COVID-19 on recreation program, but if there are any follow-up questions from committee members, I didn't look like it. So we'll move on to item C, which we kind of also covered. I think it's good for us to have these listed on the agenda so that the public's aware of what we're discussing. But in terms of potential partnership opportunities for recreation activities, including kayak and paddleboarding, I am really encouraged by what you mentioned in your report in terms of, it sounds like you got a good response from Kitty at the Exchange Club about potential opportunities. Do you want to expand on that a little bit more, or any further information you can provide? I think that's great if they're open to it.
Well, I don't know that they're open to it, but she was open she was open to take it before the board to see what their, what they wanted to do and how they wanted to handle it.
Okay.
And from my discussion with her, I'm not sure that they're interested in having lessons where people pay, because they are a service organization.
Mhm.
So our biggest discussion was on some sort of event or activities related to the dock and kayaking. So
Mhm.
that's pretty much what she was going to take to the board, and I haven't gotten a response from her. Yeah.
And that makes some sense. And I think when I originally heard about this, I heard the suggestion that, maybe one day a week or a month, we could have a resident access to the dock for some group paddle boarding or in kayaking events. If we could at least open that door up, I think that would be wonderful for the community. And seem like that may have been really come out of the Exchange Club a while back as one of those possibilities. So any conversation around that from the rest of the committee?
No, I think it's a good avenue to try at least anyway. Thank you, Norma Jean, for doing that.
Sure.
Yep, thanks.
Okay, we will move on to item D, update on implementation of coastal environmental science class. I did talk to, I think the biology instructor or professor from College of Charleston had reached out to me, and I encouraged him to talk to you. I think it's the same person that you mentioned in your report.
Will you email me the name, because I'm not sure, or if you don't mind mentioning.
I think you mentioned talking to somebody as a potential, besides the person in Wild Dunes, somebody else who might be, I think you mentioned that in your report, with somebody that I wound up talking to about surfing and paddleboarding by phone. He had contacted me, and then he mentioned
I think we're talking about the same individual.
Yeah. So anyways, but I would love to see a class like that capitalizes on our, that gets people outdoors, and it may be in a small group kind of instructional setting, but it takes advantage of our access to the beach. Anyways, but I'll be hopeful that will continue to come along, either one way or the other.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to new business and discussion of our operating budget for fiscal year 22 for the Recreation Department, which we have in our packet some materials that will help us go along with projected expenses and revenues. If you want to lead us through that.
I'm open to questions here. Overall, everything kind of stays the same. The real change here is the addition of the IT equipment, software, and services line item, which is really geared towards the addition of the online registration for RecTrack and an update to that piece of software.
Okay.
Yeah, but hey, Ron or Susan, real quick.
Yeah.
I know for all of us, this is our first look at an operating budget for fiscal 22. And just looking at the high level total numbers for a second, our original budget for 21 was about $1.1 million. We're going to spend only about 990,000, give or take. So, I mean, year over year, we're up about 270,000 rough numbers. But Norma Jean, it looks like, a good chunk of the difference is last year we reduced part-time wages, we reduced programs, we reduced a whole lot of expenses that we just didn't spend, obviously, because of COVID. So it looks like we're taking all of our expense levels back to, I guess, kind of a pre-COVID number. Is that fair?
That's very fair. Our maintenance budget, we did reduce that a little bit, the 5026, because we now have the in the capital projects, or we have that maintenance budget, a percentage of the assets. So so we'll be using that for some of our maintenance issues, as opposed to this budget where typically all of our maintenance projects come out of.
Yeah, so I mean, again, for anybody watching and other council members too, I mean, it's a pretty significant increase year over year. But again, we're talking pre-COVID, post-COVID
Right.
kind of result, plus some, Ron, to your point, plus some software, plus some maintenance item if they fail. So again, I'm just saying that out loud for my benefit more than anything. But again, this is our first operating budget we're looking at, so it's pretty significant increase, and scary to think if every department's coming in with something like this, that's going to be a challenge. But again, this one's mostly explainable to me just with the reduction in programs and salaries last year.
Well, and I think that the recreation department is unique in some ways in that.
It's unique. Yeah. It's unique.
Well, that we may have expenses in terms of part-time salaries, but that also, at the same time, we're getting revenue that is coming in. So when an instructor has an exercise class, that's reflected in our part-time salaries, but it's
Right.
also pulling in revenue to cover the cost of that. So there's a balance there that it's not just a money going out, it reflects money coming in as well.
Yeah,
and
but we don't
reflects,
have that revenue piece here in front of us. You're right.
right. And that reflects a healthy,
Right.
busy recreation center that's providing programming. So I think, yeah, that again, it's maybe not represented as well here, but that's something for us to all remember, that's
Right.
in a way a good thing if we are providing a lot of programming that's also bringing money in. So any other thought? And I do feel like that this movement to online registration will help engage, hopefully, people at a greater level, and maybe make it easier to pull in new people to use of the rec center. So, yeah, I mean, either of you want to just kind of walk through some of the numbers for us with comment, to just step through the different line items?
We can. There aren't a lot of changes, as Councilman Pounds mentioned. Some of the line items have been reduced just a little bit based on the actual. So, because you can see there, like vehicle fuel, that's reduced some. Electric and gas, we reduced that just a little based on actual. Telephone and cable, that's a little less. And then we went down to summer camps and we reduced that because we're reducing the number of individuals that will be in camp. We've eliminated the field trips last year. We've eliminated those this year unless something turns around with COVID. We're not going to do those. Our theme activities, we reduced just a little bit because we aren't doing some of the things we once did. So we've reduced quite a few just based on actual, and we aren't 100% where we were prior to COVID. So we feel like we could back off just a little bit.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? Nope.
Just a comment, Susan.
Hi, Desiree.
Hi, how are you all? Most of I think Philip nailed it in the head. A lot of it is going back to normal, assuming all events, assuming all special events are taking place in that next fiscal year, which obviously we didn't have in FY21. But if you look at the capital projects fund, that and the IT related expenses is where you can see most of the additions. And when we reviewed the capital plan, you saw that there were a few initiatives and projects that were scheduled for FY22. So that's driving some of the cost up, as well as the new IT provision to support online registration, which will create a lot of efficiencies for our department and for our staff. And that's just something that to think about as you consider those initiatives. But if you look at, HVAC, we're slated to replace one. We have the floor scrubber that's also slated to be replaced. We want to update the AV system for live streaming, thinking, we've been doing, not only we want to support live streaming programs from the rec center, but also support any meetings that city council has at the rec center for space purposes to allow for more people to participate. We want to support that by updating that equipment. We also have $20,000 for installing a platform. That was something that was not in even last year's capital plan, and we've added it for 2022 so that we can make good use of the generator that we replaced at the public safety building. So between those small items, they add up. Plus the IT, I think you're seeing a lot of that's where you're seeing a lot of the difference when you compare it to FY20 numbers, because it assumes the same level of staffing for the rec center as well. So all those expenses associated with personnel, FICA insurance, health insurance, retirement, all of that is already built into the budget.
Okay, and right now, this particular meeting, we're focused on the operating part of the budget. We did discuss capital more in depth at our last meeting. One, that makes me think, though, in terms of when we do get in a better place with COVID, especially in the fall, have there been any discussions about maybe adding an extra event to the schedule when we get to the place? I see Narva-Jean's reaction. When we get to the place where we can feel more comfortable having the kind of event that we're used to, the full-on street festival event, have we thought about doing something special given what we've missed the past year or so? Has there been, I know we kind of casually, people have had that, like, we're going to have the best party ever when we get past all of this, but truly, has there been some discussion about doing something special for all that we missed?
We haven't discussed that. I would be as happy as anybody to celebrate the end of this thing. Of course, we don't have a clue when the end's going to be, but I feel comfortable. Well, I feel positive, optimistic's the best word, that next year's Front Beach Fest will be a blowout. Because I think by next March, we might, hopefully COVID will be under control. And it might be, I think our last one, somebody said was the best we've ever had. But I think 2022, our Front Beach Fest might be the best we ever had. Hopefully by Christmas, we can kick up our holiday street festival. Maybe that's where we want to maybe we're at a point we can there. When you said add a new event, I'm like, woman, are you crazy? But I will be happy when we get back to having our celebrations where we have lots of people and we can hug and socialize. And this COVID is terrible for a social person like me. I can't stand it. So once we get a little bit further along, our programs will certainly open up, and I think we'll be able to give the residents what it is they want, and I'll be in the middle of it, right with them.
And if we do even just want to kick things up a notch with the holiday street festival, and especially next year's spring festival, should we be thinking about that in the budget? Like, should we be adding a little bit of extra money in our operating expenses to cover that?
I think we're okay. There's some things we can juggle things to make it happen, but I think we're okay with the monies that are appropriated in the hospitality and also the accommodations tax. I think we can have successful events.
Okay.
Let's not ask for more money. I don't want to get run out of town yet.
I do think it's worth noting that our community has fared especially compared to others and even in the low country, because of the success of short-term beach rentals, not just during the summer, but beyond into the fall and the winter. We, I think, can afford to do something a little extra special.
Right.
And maybe even add to do, I mean, like sometimes you incorporate things like the Ferris wheel and those and special rides and those kinds of things. Sometimes you don't. And I think maybe it varies from festival to festival.
It does.
But I would be open if you want to brainstorm a little bit about, making sure we have those special things in place and maybe even doing a little extra. I'm not sure how the other committee members feel and would love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I think our alternative too is if we see that coming down the pipes and we can add in something to our events or add an event or whatever we do to kick off and celebrate the end of COVID. I think we can always go before the Accommodations Tax Committee and ask for additional funding to make that
Right.
happen. And I would think they would be open-minded and would consider funding something.
To piggyback off of that, I don't want to get out in front of our skis here, outdrive the headlights, because we don't really know exactly when this is going to end. And the vaccine rollout has been kind of slow, and we definitely don't want to do something that's going to end up causing a problem.
Exactly.
True. I mean, I really hope that by next March, a year from now, everybody will have had the opportunity to get vaccinated, so that we feel comfortable having a large event and making it special. So, I mean, certainly if we don't, we can adjust, but optimistically, it might be something to plan for. I don't know, thoughts from other committee members?
Yeah, I really don't have much to add. I mean, the fact that this budget, like I said, it includes, we're going back to, pre-COVID levels. I think we'll meet those demands if something were to arise. And I think one of the sticking points with it was, with the computer software programming and all that stuff, that's really driving up the cost. And that's one of the reasons we didn't do it previously, because of the expense. And we didn't, it was a huge expense for, the small little island. A lot of folks came up and registered in person. But this past year, a lot of things have changed. I think we're going to see a lot more in every department, especially with the audiovisual and that type of improvements to our equipment base. So yeah. But as for moving forward, I mean, for events and everything, I think we can, that's going to move. We'll play by ear. When things look better, we'll schedule something. If it doesn't, we'll alter it and shift. So I think that's one thing we can do right now.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Susan, can I ask one last question real
Oh,
quick?
sure.
Because I know I'm looking at the note Debbie's put in on particularly wages. So we don't have anything in from a merit standpoint, but we're increasing almost $12,000 in this particular budget line item. Is that explainable? What's going on with that number, Ron? Do you know, or Desiree?
Yeah, that number assumes the 2.5, reinstating the 2020 2.5 merit and FY21 2%. There is nothing in it for FY22. And I think that was a conversation that we wanted to have with the rest of council at the workshop. Do we wait until we have the results from the wage and compensation study to include a component there for merit? But we'll be seeing, we'll be having those conversations with, as the report is completed, because there's going to be, I expect the component for adjustments that are not going to be necessarily merit based, just adjustments that the report highlights as, needing some attention, and then whatever we want to establish as the policy moving forward for the merit pool, so that we're not changing it every year. And that was one of the things that we've heard from employees consistently, is not knowing every year, is it going to be 2, 3, 2.5? Are we going to have anything? And I think we're trying to address that by just having a policy and just, moving forward every year with it, obviously flexible enough to allow for some changes when it needs to. But that's why we haven't really put anything there until we have that conversation with council and we get the results from the wage income report.
Yeah, and that makes sense, Desiree, and I know that's consistent with our conversation. I was just trying to match up the dollars with the comment on the back. So thank you I
Yes.
appreciate that.
Okay. All right. Moving on to implement item B under new business, update of implementation of commercial surf instruction ordinance.
Yeah, so just to walk you through real quickly what we're going to be doing at a high level there. One of my goals for today is to create an online application for the commercial surf permissions that would need to be received by council or approved by council rather. That would look like basically somebody submitting proof of all of the items that are required for that permission to be granted. We would compile those, check them for completeness, and then essentially present them at the next regular council meeting after the application is received. Those would then be able to be reviewed by council and approved or disapproved as you guys see fit.
Any questions regarding that?
It's good, Ron. Thank you.
Yeah, it sounds like a good plan. I feel like it should be, for the most part, in terms of approval or disapproval, we're talking about having the capacity to limit numbers more than that we will be looking at the merits. If people meet the qualifications, I think that we will, should be approving unless maybe there's a conversation if we have somebody in the future who's been violating our restrictions. But otherwise, I think it'll just be numbers. So, all right, moving on then to summer camp, discussion of summer camp registration and preview.
I couldn't find my unmute button. Summer camp is going to be run very similar to it was last year. We're going to have reduced numbers. We have the same guidelines and procedures we used last year that we developed due to COVID. So we're going to follow the same ones. As I mentioned earlier, I did meet with Dr. Eckert and Dr. Key from MUSC, and they're involved in the back to business, and they're working with schools and recreation departments to make sure that we all are doing the right things when it comes to camp. Like I said, last year we were successful in this. We kept them in small groups. We kept the groups with the same counselor the entire time. What's unique to us is we are a small island and the same children are coming to camp, and they're so it's not like every week we have a whole different crew of children coming in, but we still do the temperatures and that sort of thing. There was some before they get out of the car. We don't let them with the children until their temperatures are taken. The parents do not get out of the car. Parents do not come into the facility. We meet them at the parking area. Once their temperature is taken, they go to a assigned spot. So they stay in those groups all during the week. There was a question regarding eligibility for grandparents that have grandchildren that do not live on the island, but they live on the island. If you're a resident and your grandparent or an aunt or uncle, and you have a grandchild or niece or nephew that would like to attend camp, they have to live at least 50 miles from the Isle of Palms in order to register for the camp. However, because of the reduced numbers, I'm pretty sure that the camp will fill up with just Isle of Palms residents. And that's all we had last year. We didn't have any grandchildren from off the island, but we have to do that, because if not, the local community, a lot of the grandchildren live close by, Mount Pleasant or Charleston or Allendale. And so, to bring those in as residents, I don't think would be fair to our actual residents. So if the child is spending the summer with their grandparents, and they live more than 50 miles away, then that surely makes sense that they could register.
So let's walk back through, if you could, historically until I think last year, we had, in-person registration for camp, and remind me how it went last year and how we're walk through how we're doing it this year.
It's going to be a lottery, just like it was last year. People will be able to register online. And that was part of the labor intensive part because of reconciling that with RecTrack. Once we received all the registrations, we put those into our software, the RecTrack software, and it did its magic and spit out those children who were eligible to be invited to be a part of the camp. So it was random. We have nothing to do with that. Our software does that for us. And then we email those folks, let them know that they have been selected to participate. Then they have the opportunity to pay online, which is once again another nightmare for us because we have to reconcile that too. But it worked. It just took a lot of hours to put that information together. The RecTrack software will make it much, much easier for us. But it's going to be a lottery again because we think there are going to be a lot of people that want to be a part of it, and we do have to keep our numbers down. If we did it in person, we would do it very similar to the way we used to do it, first come, first serve. But because we're doing online, it will be a lottery.
And how are campers, each camper, is there a restriction on how many weeks of camp they can do, or can they do the whole summer if they want to?
There is a restriction when they sign up for the weeks that they would like to come. Typically, no one really signs up for all the weeks anymore. That used to happen years ago, but not as much as it used to. But with the lottery, there's no guarantee that they'll get in all those weeks.
Okay.
The lottery separates it into weeks. So even if you sign up for all weeks, doesn't mean you're going to get in.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. And there's not necessarily, so is there out of the box, is there a cap on how many weeks a camper can do? If they, like, let's say, if they were the first to come up in the lottery, could they potentially register for a lot of different, okay.
No, the lottery tells you what weeks that you've been approved for.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, I do think that for some people it is, while in the past some people enjoyed camping out for camp registration. And it may have been the ones that were hoping to sign up for every week because it was really helpful also with childcare for them. But the ease for people to be able to sign up this way is some people really appreciate that. And I think with COVID, it works as best as it can. Looking forward to when it's easier for you all with the right software, online registration software. So thanks for going over that. And in terms of, especially right now, because the numbers are reduced, the focus is on serving our island kids.
Right.
And in the future, I mean, there have been times in the past where some kids who are that don't live on the island sometimes can get into camp, but it really has historically been mostly serving island kids, correct?
That's correct.
Right.
That's
Okay.
correct.
All right. Any questions on summer camp from you guys?
Nope.
All right, we'll move on to miscellaneous business. Our next meeting date is 8 a.m. Monday, April 5th. Again, people we're encourage the public to send us comments or join us. I believe our next meeting, Ron, if you could touch on, we're gonna try and do a hybrid.
So my goal is to be able to have people who want to be physically present as members of the committee at that meeting do that, and then also live stream it at the same time, and have the ability for people to connect via Zoom if they would like to do that. Got to do some testing, make sure that's going to work out in the upstairs committee room. But yeah, I mean, that's the goal.
Okay, super. And so that means that citizens can join us either way as well. They could join us in person or they could join us virtually if everything turns out the way we hope it will.
Correct.
And of course, they can also submit comments by email if they don't want to appear before the committee.
Yes, and because that's kind of a small space, we might have a limited capacity in the physical building, but again, it will be live streamed.
Okay, well, so I guess there could be a possibility that we get more, maybe somebody who plans to come would need to sign up in person if we have space limitation concerns.
I would think it would just be first come, first serve, just for
Okay.
ease of administration.
Not that we usually have a lot of attendance at our recreation committee meetings historically, but
Very true.
sometimes. Did you say we're planning to do it in the upstairs conference room, or could we do it in the downstairs council chambers to have more space?
That's up to you guys. We can do it either way. So I can, set them both up and test in both places.
It seems to me like it would allow for us, even for the committee members, to have more space between us and with staff if we set up in the council chambers.
Yeah, I mean, that works for me.
Any comments? All right.
Yeah, I got a comment. It's hard to believe we're talking about an April meeting already.
Right.
You're flying.
I
It's
know.
crazy.
I know.
I know, yeah.
And I think, I kind of press for in-person meeting, but I think the way we need to do it, and I talked to Ron about this, is I want to make sure I want to deliver the same amount of service that we've been delivering the residents. We have so much engagement via Zoom. I think that we need to find a way to do it. It needs to be done well. And Ron, if we can't get the infrastructure in place before April, I still don't have a problem with it. I want it to be done well and moving forward, and find out ways that we can make this thing happen. And I think this is going to be the new normal for all of us. I think a lot of the comments and suggestions, because it becomes makes it very accessible for residents to be engaged, and I enjoy that, and I think a lot of people do. So like I said, I think it will be the new normal for us. That's why we need to put so much infrastructure into our audiovisual systems throughout the city.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. This has changed the dynamic in terms of COVID, but in a way I think has really engaged a lot more people who find it easier to follow the meetings through Zoom than they did previously. So a hybrid where we can allow people to participate in person and allow council members to participate in person or virtually, I think really opens up a lot of opportunities to keep people engaged. So, all right. Any other further comment?
No, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.